Hey everybody, welcome back to Break Time. I'm your host David Liddell, and this is show number 5. Previously we talked about a few documentaries, The Last Dance. We have Long Gone Summer coming up, as well as Be Water. I watched a little bit of Lance, the documentary all about Lance Armstrong, and I didn't like it. I got about 20 minutes into it, and I absolutely hated it. I couldn't finish it. And it's a 4-hour documentary. 2 episodes, 2 hours each. So, from what I could take from watching it, it just is completely apparent that Lance Armstrong is a complete asshole. And he has no remorse as to the level of cheating and other terrible shit that he did during his career whatsoever. So I have absolutely no sympathy for the guy. I mean, sure, he had testicular cancer and he raised a whole lot of money for cancer research, but that doesn't get to excuse your inability to interact with humans in a respectful and helpful way. So the whole thing is about his career. I had to read the rest through a synopsis and through other reviews, but essentially about his life and career in cycling, all about his doping, all about his cancer research, him going through cancer, and a whole lot of his teammates not liking him very much, as well as like other people that he worked with. It seems that everyone agrees that Lance Armstrong is a complete asshole and that he's just always trying to hurt people who speak up against him, which is, case in point, one of the stories that I read was one of the trainers that he used to work with, as well as other cyclists, came out and was talking about Lance Armstrong's shortcomings in some way or another, mainly about his drug use, but he lashed back and said, some pretty terrible things about this woman, one of many being that she would sleep with all of the cyclists that she trained with and so on and so forth. So it's just stuff like that that completely turns me off from giving a shit about Lance Armstrong, as well as any of his like actual good doings that he's done. And yeah, it's great, but that doesn't make him great. So my IMDb of Lance is definitely going to be a 0 out of 10, just because it's really hard to listen to a guy who makes millions of dollars a year, talk about how he has to pay all this money to court cases, being sued for cheating, and him saying, oh, well, I was able to get this great appeal and I only had to pay so much. So it's like, he still wants you to feel bad for him, but I will not be having it. So that's my take on Lance, and I am just hoping that Be Water is going to be a good documentary coming up. Same thing with Long Gone Summer, all about Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa's home run competition, which at the end of the season, they ended up having Mark McGwire with 70 total home runs and Sammy Sosa with 66, shattering the record, which was previously set by Roger Maris in 1960 with 61 home runs, when Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle had their home run challenge together. So the story is going to go that Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa go out and hit all these home runs, but there's a big doping scandal in baseball during that point in time. So it's going to be really interesting to find out the different ins and outs of how that was, how the public felt about it, how the MLB felt about it, and why they have such a huge asterisk next to their name. Now, a little bit of history for you. Yes, Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa had the top 2 home run records, so 70 and 66, but in third was Ken Griffey Jr. with 56 home runs. So in 1998, it was a big deal because, one, the previous record was beaten by both Mark McGwire with 70 and Sammy Sosa with 66, but also they have two very big asterisks next to those records. So honestly, the home run record still hasn't been beat really. And Ken Griffey Jr. would have been the closest non-reported doper in MLB at the time. So really, if it goes out to anybody, it should be Ken Griffey Jr. for getting, the closest, I suppose. And then in 2001, you had Barry Bonds, who ended up hitting 73 home runs, but also being a part of a doping scandal back then as well. So you could still say that Roger Maris has the quote-unquote home run record, in my opinion, and hopefully in a lot of other people's opinions, because back in the 60s, they didn't have the insane steroids that we do now, that the whole Major League Baseball scene was taking back in the, late 80s through all the 90s, early 2000s. And it was just a huge problem. And for that reason, I feel like that's one of the biggest downfalls of baseball, and also baseball cards as well. You had all these guys who were pretty good, and they ended up, getting caught doping, and now their records are essentially, asterisks for the rest of their life. But that's enough about baseball. I mean, I'm super excited about the documentary, but there are more good documentaries that are going to come out about football. They got one coming about Tom Brady right now, which, I mean, you can love or hate the guy, but to me, Tom Brady is freaking amazing. Nobody can truly deny that. Sure, you can talk about the cheating, and you can talk about the, having the Bill Belichick effect in his gameplay. Who knows? We're going to actually find out this season, I believe, when he plays for the Bucs, to see just how much of an influence Bill Belichick is on his, day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis, because he's not going to have Bill Belichick. And there's this really good joke floating around about Bill Belichick being the Bucs' new offensive coordinator, Will Willichek, and wearing a big old mustache. I thought that was pretty funny the other day. It was a really good meme. But, there's other stuff going on right now. Dana White's Fight Island is still on, and he did a really good interview with Pardon My Take, just last week, and talked about how people have this fantasy idea of what Fight Island is going to be like. And he's like, no, it's just a place where, we can do whatever the heck we want, without being bothered by the government. I essentially rented an island and am hosting whatever the heck I want to, have happen on this island, because it's one, my octagon, and two, there's no governments to tell him he can't. So, I mean, and the thing about Dana White is he's from the beginning known that, like, the coronavirus has been a big deal, and especially for contact sports, it's the worst, job to have, because your whole job is to touch other people and get up super close with people and, put yourself at risk. So, he talked about that, and how, him and his team want to make sure that these people are able to, get done fighting and not have to worry about it. They do want to keep their fighters safe, but at least with, Fight Island, they can do that without having any backlash from the federal or local government. So, super excited about that. Other sports news. So, they're going to jump into the NBA here pretty soon, and I'm really excited about that. They're going to have all those seeding rounds. I'm not sure exactly what the schedule is going to be like, because only 22 teams ended up deciding to play in the seeding rounds. So either that, or if that's just what the NBA wanted to go with, or maybe some teams didn't want to. I'm not sure. From what I read, it was like 29 out of the 30 teams, were cool with this idea, but I believe some opted out because they weren't even going to get it past, like, the seeding rounds. So, we'll see what happens there. I'm really excited. But with, like, the Pelicans, being one of those teams that's going to start out in those seeding rounds. I think it's just the NBA's way of saying we want to make sure Zion Williamson gets to the playoffs in his rookie season. And I just don't see it. You know, you got obviously Zion, you have Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and you could say Drew Holiday, but it's just not going to be enough. If you ask me, I mean, the Bucks team is just unbelievable, as well as the Lakers, and in my opinion, the Dallas Mavericks. I don't see the Pelicans getting past, you know, some of the first seeding rounds, and like I said, the schedule hasn't come out yet, so, you know, we'll see what happens when it happens, but I believe that the Pelicans are going to have a really tough road, no matter who they play, to make it to the playoffs, and even if they do make it to the playoffs, you know, they'll be playing the Lakers or the Bucks or the Golden State Warriors, and it's just not, you know, I mean, you have these really good two West teams and then an East team that's just murdering. So I don't think that much is going to happen to the Pelicans this year. And that's not to take away that, you know, Zion did get pretty, you know, screwed his rookie season, as well as, you know, all of the other rookies got screwed with their rookie season, but, you know, it's just weird to see the Pelicans in the same conversation as, you know, the Golden State Warriors and the Lakers and the Bucks and the Dallas Mavericks. So just as a team, and, you know, I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that, you know, Zion, you know, does well, because, you know, I have money riding on him too, just like every other collector who picks up basketball. But, you know, just for me, I would really like to see Giannis get MVP. That's what I really care about. And I really don't want Zion to get Rookie of the Year, because I believe that Ja Morant is, you know, right there next to him. Maybe not scoring-wise, but definitely, like, talent-wise. I believe that he has a lot brighter of a future, mainly because he's not as injury prone as Zion was, you know, coming into the season. And that's another thing that a lot of people don't talk about, is that he missed, Lord, how many games his, you know, starting out the season, like the first 3 or 4 weeks, just because of a previous injury. And then he came out and he did really well, and that's great, but, you know, he had to shake off all of that rust, and now he's going to have to do it all over again. And speaking of basketball, I mean, if we're going to talk about, you know, basketball coming up and how these great rookies are going to, you know, change the game, let's talk about some other guys that you should be picking up right now, sports cards-wise, getting ready for the basketball season to continue, I suppose. So who you really want to be focusing on right now is definitely Trae Young. He is an amazing player. He's cheap right now. Definitely go and pick him up. A guy over on the Dallas Mavericks, Kristaps Porzingis, is another guy you want to be picking up. I myself just picked up a Kristaps Porzingis Prism Orange PSA 9, as well as Prism Ruby Wave PSA 9, which is numbered out of 350. To give you a little reference, the silver PSA 9s are selling for around 190, and I got this numbered Ruby Wave PSA 9 for around the same price. So keep your eyes out for stuff like that when you can find deals on guys that, you know, not everybody is picking up all at once. Another bunch of guys you want to be picking up is like Kobe White and Ja Morant, Darius Garland, RJ Barrett, Jarrett Culver, Tyler Hero, Brandon Clark, Rui Hachimura, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, and so on and so forth. You want to be picking up a bunch of guys that are, you know, really big rookies this year that everyone's kind of, you know, shoved off to the side in take of these, you know, higher end Zion Williamson, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, Steph Curry, James Harden, you know, so on and so forth. Rookie cards, and that's everybody's main focus. So if you pick up these other guys that also have bright futures, you're going to be way ahead of everybody who's focusing on just like a few guys like Zion and Luka. Oh, and I just wanted to mention real fast that if you're not into investing into cards and you want to get into investing into cards, I think somebody that you should really check out would be Gary Vee as well as Vegas Dave. Guys that are super knowledgeable about cards and investing in cards, as well as just being generally, amazing businessmen. They've got a lot of good things to say. So if you're just starting out and you don't know everything, check them out, get a little inspiration, as well as just find your local card shop. Go somewhere where you're going to, be around people who enjoy collecting, want to sell you stuff that's like you're going to enjoy, and as well as just ask questions around the communities on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever social media you want to check out for advice on collecting and like what's hot, what's not, and are just good places to get good information on collecting, as well as getting hobby exclusive stuff, which is unless you want to buy it on eBay or from a distributor, which you have to have a business license for. There's not a lot of other places that you can find it other than hobby shops where you have to worry about shipping and all sorts of stuff like that. You're always worrying about somebody looking through the product and such. Card shops are normally a good place to go for that. They also do breaks and other raffles and stuff that'll get you used to what it's going to be like in Facebook communities, because they have certain etiquettes that you want to follow if you're going to be joining Facebook groups or other groups on social media. You have to understand the rules of doing stuff like that, how to use your PayPal, how to buy things safely, as well as trading and selling on your own. So just, get some information before you go head first into it. And I'm a good source of information as well. So if you like this podcast, feel free to message me or leave a comment on my video. I'll answer any questions you might have. And I just wanted to make this kind of a short podcast today, just to talk a little bit about, Lance and sports as we know it right now, who to be picking up, and who you should be watching out for with sports coming back so soon. So, keep your eyes out for more videos, guys. I'll be doing more centralized content here pretty soon. I'm probably going to have a show dedicated completely to documentaries, and I might have another show that's dedicated just to talking about sports news, whatever might be coming up. And I'll be adding more content to the page very, very soon. And lastly, I just wanted to remind everybody, come check me out over on Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. I post all the time, especially over on Facebook and TikTok, different videos about shipping and, investing in cards, grading cards, what have you. And then on Facebook, I do a lot of raffles and giveaways and stuff like that. That's just fun to get into. I like sharing with everybody on the platform, because there's just such a big reach that Facebook has. You can reach a whole lot of people. And I do have a very new Facebook group, but I'm hoping to grow it and add really interesting people and interesting content. So go check me out over there. I'll throw in some links in the description. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks for listening to Break Time Sports Breaks.